Welcome everyone to another episode of the Shade and Shit Talking Podcast. I'm your host TK, and as always, I thank you guys for tuning in. Now, this episode is the final part of the 4-part series that I have been doing about Black History Month. And this episode is all about reeducation, or educating ourselves or others about Black history, about the importance of Black history, about who we are and what we are as a group of people. And, I personally think that Black History Month is a necessity, but it's also a necessity that we not only do this for February, but for 365 days out of the year. Because I've said since the beginning that Black history is American history, but it isn't, recognized as the same or on the same level with the same zeal and fervor as the European history that dominates America. And last week on my For the Culture segment, I talked about a young lady, a young school teacher who made news for her contribution to educating the youth about Black history. Some of you might recall where she went viral for a board, or rather for how she decorated the door to her classroom. And basically she let these children know that our history did not start at slavery. We didn't, Africans weren't born as slaves to, the colonies, for the colonies. She let them know, hey, we were kings and queens and fathers, mothers, brothers, aunts, uncles, cousins, doctors, entrepreneurs, scientists, teachers, whatever, And I actually appreciated seeing that. I appreciated the effort that she put forth to educate those kids, and by default educate everyone who came into contact with what she did. But the thing that I feel is that it is very very critical that we teach Black history. And I could give you 3, 4, 5 reasons why. I mean, a multitude of reasons why. But in the interest of time and, not just going on and on, I won't do that. But I think that Black history is still very important. In Black History Month, we're in the 43rd year of having Black History Month. But I think that it should not only be taught to our kids, our little Black kids and whatever. I think it should be taught to all students. Just the same that as all students are taught, mathematics and taught the various sciences and taught American history and music and literature and everything else. I think that Black history should be taught as well. Now, we all know that Black history focuses on the contributions that Black folks made, Africans made, African Americans made in the past and continue to make. So it's important that it's taught in these schools. I think that when students are educated to when they're educated not to just respect or appreciate the fact that black folks have always made tangible, real, valuable contributions to society in the United States. I think they are taught to not to respect and not to appreciate the black folks that's currently here. I think if all these different children of different ethnicities and races are taught that we are more than just slaves, or we are more than just less than, that we are actual now and have always been viable, valuable pieces to society, to American history, then that same feeling will go home with them and go with them out in the world when they interact with black folks. I think if everybody knows the history and knows the value, that can be a way to end the distrust and end the insensitivity, the hatred, the disdain, the lack of respect. So, like I hinted at earlier, one of the main reasons why I think learning and teaching black history is important is because racism is still alive and well and going full throttle in America. I mean, just this week, you had a situation in my home state up in Ole Miss where, you got white supremacists marching on a campus full of black kids, and the school just pretty much told the kids, hey, y'all just be careful. Like, what kind of shit is that? I mean, just like, Colonizer Nonsense segment that I do just focuses on the various incidents of just racism and bigotry and xenophobia and just flat out hatred, But it's just virtually impossible to live in America without seeing incidents of racism every day. It's just impossible. I mean, you can see it on the news where unarmed black people are shot down, or being accosted by just everyday citizens and harassed with and getting the cops called on them for nothing, for selling water, drinking coffee, or just everything. I mean, you see it in the schools across the nation with the disparity in education. You see it in the disparity in housing, in the job market, housing market. Just like I said, racism is alive and well. And I think that, again, if people know history, not just the whitewashed history that they teach as a means to make themselves feel good, but the real history of America and the contributions that are made, that carries over and can help combat that racism for the things that I listed earlier, the respect factor and the disparity in respect and things of that nature. So that's one of the reasons why teaching history, black history, is very important. And like I brought up earlier, another reason is it can serve a dual purpose. Like I said, children learn this valuable information at school. They go home and share what they learn with their parents, or they take it out into the world, and it becomes beneficial to our society as a whole, because it means that the issue of race will be talked about. It'll be, discussed in more homes across America. It's not just in black homes, and these conversations are very important because for one, they can be used to enlighten those who don't know any better, or combat ignorance and bullshit myths about black people. So very important. And also when these other students, when I say other non-black students, when they learn that black folks have contributed in a positive way to society, whether it's through science, through art, through music, through education, medicine, law, they know all this, learn all this. It gives them an appreciation for black folks currently living in the United States. They become exposed to the fact that we don't just black folks are not just some welfare case that just constantly just take from this country. We also have given in leaps and bounds in immeasurable amounts, blood, sweat, and tears, and free labor, and so that's one, another reason why it's very important to educate in black history, as well as educating our own kids so that they know where they come from and who they are, and can have that sense of pride and sense of accomplishment, and know that what they're facing now is sometimes pale in comparison to what their ancestors faced, and their greats, and those ancestors that lived through the worst period in America. I think that when people learn and come to respect and appreciate other people's culture, and get an understanding of different types of people, they will start to see the similarities that we share. And these same similarities will show them that, hey, black folks are not to be feared or avoided or treated less than or shunned. It'll show just the opposite. It'll show that we are productive members of this society, have always been, without getting proper due credit. But we are just as big a part of the United States as anybody that's here. Probably even more so because of the fact that we built this country. It thrived off of free slave labor. And, speaking of slavery, and I know I said that, our history didn't start with slavery, but since it's such a main part of our history, I just wanted to say this little quick thing I found about it. But, when it comes to the history of slavery in the U.S., and when we talk about the central role that slavery played in shaping this country, both economically and, population-wise and whatnot, North and South. But when we look at that and look at the continued impact that it has had on race relations, I saw this report by the Southern Poverty Law Center that showed that students don't really know much about it. I saw in this report, it talked about the fact that only 8% of U.S. high school seniors could identify slavery as a central cause of the Civil War. 68% of those students who were surveyed did not know that slavery formally ended with only with an amendment to the Constitution. 44% of the students answered that slavery was legal in all colonies during the American Revolution. Now, this came from a report called Teaching Hard History, American Slavery. And it was research done by a nonprofit called the Teaching Tolerance Project, which is part of the Southern Poverty Law Center. But just reading this, it kind of shows that the schools aren't teaching the curriculum, the proper curriculum to properly cover that part of American history. It shows that teachers aren't really prepared to teach it because it's not, mandated or stressed that they come up with, viable learning tools and commit to teaching this. But it also revealed that the textbooks don't include enough material to properly talk about it. And I kind of touched on that last week when I talked about the whitewashing of the history in these textbooks. The thing about it, what we all should know and understand is that it's important that everybody has an understanding that slavery is truly, truly, truly at the foundation and formation of this nation. I mean, it is what it is. And without having a real grasp on the role that slavery played in this country, you cannot fully understand the American past or its present. And that's just what it is. So